a conservative American.
Right there, Wayne.
Yes.
Go ahead, you're up.
All right, well, I think the biggest problem they've been going after Dr. Carson is because he's actually providing solutions as African-American conservatives. And now, the one thing I heard him talk about the most was his health care plan. We talked about saving money from the time of birth. Right. None of our elected officials, Democrat or Republican, have brought up any of these kind of solutions. And I think that that's what strikes the most fear in the liberal mindset.
I believe that Donald Trump, it's possible he'll get 10%, maybe more, of the vote, and I don't believe that people are going to come out in droves for the way they did for Barack Obama for Hillary Clinton.
So what would you like, and what would the parishioners in this church in Detroit like to hear Donald Trump say?
I mean, I think most of the people here are just interested to hear his platform, to see if he understands, truly understands what the people of Detroit and what urban America needs in terms of the issues that affect our communities. I think this is an important first step in having that dialogue.
So polls suggest that Trump does not have a deep reservoir of support among black voters, to put it mildly. What could he say this morning that would allow people to hear him?
I think he needs to talk specifically about some of the issues in terms of education, in terms of how that would improve our communities, in terms of jobs. When you start talking about trade agreements, Detroit is one of the places that's been affected the most by some of the bad deals that have happened in the manufacturing industry. So I think that that's a strong point. That's something Donald Trump has talked about from day one. So I think he needs to talk about that. But again, I would focus on school choice, jobs, and then when you start talking about making communities safe, make sure you talk about also making sure the police are also accountable, talk about body cameras, talk about all the different issues that affect our community.
And Donald Trump has been beating the drum that Democratic policies have failed African Americans in some communities in that state. Does that resonate with your community, do you feel like, or not?
I mean, it's quite simply, it's true, and I'm glad that we have a candidate that's at least bringing that issue to the forefront. I think at the end of the day that people do have to make their own decisions on what they're comfortable with, but it's a great discussion to have because Detroit is one of the poster childs for liberal policies, and the Democrats have run the city for a long time. So it's a worthy discussion, and I think a lot of people have a serious trust deficit with Hillary Clinton, and that's a bigger issue. Is if you don't trust Hillary Clinton, let's talk about why you should support Donald Trump.
That's why we bring in Wayne Bradley, because you are in charge of a very difficult task of attracting African-American voters to Donald Trump.
Right.
I think no Republican candidate in the last 20 years has attracted more than 4 to 5% of the vote, of African-American vote. What are you doing now to change that? I know you had Donald Trump Jr. here yesterday. Is that making a difference?
I think there are a lot of people out here that don't trust Hillary, and they're looking for a reason to vote for Donald Trump. And if he's willing to talk about the ideas and the things that can improve their community, they're willing to give him a chance.
Distraction. Well, during one of his speeches when he said, "There's my African-American." Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that man was running for Congress, and he was not offended by that.
But aren't you offended by this?
I wouldn't want someone referring to me that way. But again, the bigger issue is what is he going to do to fix America?
When Donald Trump came to Michigan and said, "Your neighborhoods are ghettos. Your people are jobless. Your schools are terrible. You live in hell. You might go outside and get shot. Why not vote for me? What do you have to lose?" You weren't offended by that?
I think he could have worded that better, but no, I'm not offended by the idea of what do we have to lose. The Democrat Party has taken the black vote for granted for the last 50 years, and we have nothing to show for those results.
I understand, but don't you think that when George W. Bush
why aren't you more concerned the fact that, because you said that we wouldn't go to war if Hillary Clinton, I assume if we elected Hillary Clinton, we're going to war quicker than we will Donald Trump. She's more of a hawk.
I agree she is more of a hawk. So he's an isolationist, and I'm not defending Hillary Clinton's hawkish views and her tendency to go to war.
Are you defending her husband's views on calling us black men super predators?
Well, actually,
mass incarceration. Are we to believe that Hillary Clinton is going to turn around all the policies that her husband created?
No, I agree with you too.
Well, that's what she's running on. But that's what she's running on.
In the 90s, we incarcerated more black young men than ever before, and they still are rotting in prison for nonviolent crimes.
Done nothing to eradicate that.
No black man could say say what Donald Trump is saying, and you know that too, Wayne Bradley.
No, I will say that he would have a hard time.
Thank you.
He would have a hard time.
Thank you.
But he's a celebrity. He's a
Celebrity
celebrity. That's what I'm saying. His celebrity is what got him there. It has nothing to do with race. He was a celebrity. I know black people young black females that are 25 that grew up for the last 10 years watching Celebrity Apprentice. They do not look at him as some bad person, and he was not known as a racist until he decided to run against a Democrat.
I'd like to echo what Wayne said. Look, we have a choice in this election. We can have the status quo from the last 8 years.
Wayne is exactly right, that people are upset at a system that doesn't work. It's been broken. There are career politicians that don't do anything.
Yes, you're right.
Because
you're right. If the least number of people vote, that elects Donald Trump. That's exactly right.
I think we need to do more of this so the word gets out that this is not, like in Michigan, I'm not the only one. That's the word we're going to get out there. We're working together, and there's plenty of us, and we have a voice and opinion that needs to be heard.
Need the assistance is a way you can do that without essentially just writing a blank check to a district and saying everyone gets a free meal. I mean, this is America. There is no free lunch. I mean, that's just the bottom line. There is no free lunch.
Bottom line. Yeah, that's...
And I'd like to ask you, I know you must have other African Americans occasionally ask you, how can you be a Republican? Why are you a Republican? And we had an African American on the stage the other night, and Ben Carson, who I thought gave a really fascinating answer when he was asked about race as well. But tell me a little bit about that dynamic right now of trying to get this party to appeal more to African Americans.
I think what you really have to do, you have to focus more on the policy issues instead of just looking for, based on skin color, what policies work best for our communities. And I think that we've kind of lost that over the years and just listening to one party. If we're producing better solutions, I think more people are apt to listen to the Republican Party. And Dr. Ben Carson, being from Detroit, I mean, there is a connection there on that. So I think a lot of people can relate to him from that standpoint, at least. And if you listen to, like, for example, you have the Rand Paul way he looks at it is a lot different from any of the other Republican candidates. I mean, we're talking about foreign policy, so I think you do have different ways to approach foreign policy, and he definitely has a different way for everyone else. He's
definitely an example.
What is the point, Wayne, of having a movement in which you are saying that person, Donald Trump, is unqualified and unfit to be the president of the United States? But yeah, if he's a nominee, I'll support him. Doesn't that undermine their entire Never Trump argument?
I mean, but they made a promise. Everyone made that pledge. So, if you're a man of your word, you honor your pledge. I mean, I just haven't seen the evidence yet of him destroying the party. I mean, like I said, I have an office in Detroit, and we've had new volunteers that have come in based on Donald Trump.
Tell me who these people are. Who are these people that are coming in?
I mean, just last week, for example, we had a 17-year-old African-American female that came in as a volunteer, and she said the reason why she got involved was because of Donald Trump.
And why is that? Why do you suppose he has appealed to, let's say, black voters particularly?
I mean, the celebrity factor definitely makes a difference. You've seen him, whether it's on The Apprentice, you've seen him, different stars in the media, Puffy and all these different people have endorsed him. So,
Puffy hasn't endorsed him.
He hasn't endorsed him, but he said he would make a good leader.
Right.
I mean, and so when you've seen that in the past, I mean, that kind of translates to people saying, well, maybe he's not as bad as some of the rhetoric that's coming out.
And as Wayne said, in inner cities, you're getting some support. So I think he could remake the Republican Party.
Been a turnoff, when people are looking at that. It's not necessarily Trump, but maybe some of his supporters in the ways.
But he's egging people on from the dais to go after protesters.
I think some of that's already there, and maybe when they hear that, maybe they get some more riled up. But Donald Trump is not the reason that some of these people are walking around.
What do you think is the reason that there's so much attraction of white supremacists to his campaign?
Like I said, I think some of it maybe is talking about the immigration issues and things of that nature. But again, from it's the people that come to the events that make people look at it and say, I don't know if I want to support him. It's not Donald Trump himself. It's a lot of his supporters.
Is there a plan? Is there some way to grow that support?
I mean, I think that if he continues to have the dialogue, going to different places throughout the country in these urban areas like Detroit, like a Cleveland, like a Chicago, and he's willing to have the conversation in those communities, I think that people are looking for a reason to vote for Donald Trump. There's a lot of people that don't trust Hillary Clinton in our community. I think what I'm hearing more of is people are saying, I want to hear his policy, his ideas. Give me a reason to vote for him. I'm not against voting for him. Give me a reason to vote for him.
Now, as we understand it, that means that every student in Detroit Public Schools will get free breakfast, free lunch, free meals, free snacks, and it doesn't matter if their parents can pay for it. Why don't you like it?
Well, I think that's the biggest issue. I don't want to come out here and say that I don't want anyone to eat, but the idea that we're going to give people who don't need that aid, it just doesn't sound right. We're in a time right now where we're struggling financially as a country, and that, you know, these kind of bills and these kind of things are the reason why we've been downgraded with our credit. We just don't get it as far as we don't have it right now. We're offering a service that they're even saying everyone doesn't need it. I mean, I think that's the biggest issue. He's saying that everyone doesn't need it, so why give it to everyone?